Say something here. Someone said something.
I did.
Welcome. Welcome. And nice sunshine out there.
Did it warm up at all?
Yeah.
Because it's so cold, it looks like it should be warm.
Tomorrow's going to be warm.
Good.
Technology. It's a passing fad. I hope you all know that. Open up service tonight.
You go back to
Reading from
vision.
Psalms. It says, "My soul will rejoice in the Lord and delight in his salvation. My whole being will exclaim, who is like you, Lord?"
Thank
word wash over us. Let us worship and bow down to you in the way that we are supposed to. Help us to come to your feet. And thank you for who you are.
Did none of you get the memo that we're doing dress-up church from now on? Missed that one?
Yeah. Did we?
I did a community funeral today at 2 o'clock, or it actually started at 1, and met with a family this week. On occasion, the funeral home, when there's a particularly difficult situation, they'll call me. And this one happened to me where I could kind of fit it in, but there wasn't enough time for me to go home and bum down and get ready for church. This is what I look like when I'm cleaned up. Somebody did try, but it wasn't me. Last week we experienced Holy Week leading up to Easter Sunday. We now have Bibles with the whole story complete in it. We've gone over it many, many times, memorized a lot of the verses. I could start one, you'd probably be able to finish it. But in real time, the individuals who went through those experiences of Good Friday and Easter Sunday had no clue at all what was happening, why it was happening, how to deal with it at all. It was total chaos. And now that we know the end of the story, we fit all the pieces. It's like having a puzzle already done with the pieces all numbered and in sequence. And you can just lay them out and they all fit nicely, and boy, it makes sense. We're not under stress with the Good Friday story and the Easter story. But we get to the week after Easter, and it all starts up again. Chaos. Senselessness. Incredible difficulty. We don't know how to meet it. We don't know how to apply what happened on Easter Sunday morning to the ordinary circumstances of everyday life. I'm going to begin next week a series that is kind of based loosely, in a little sense, on 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 through 10. There's 8 recommended pieces that Peter says this will keep you from stumbling. You never stumble, well, Amy accepted, on things that you see coming. It's when it catches your foot by surprise. When you're going someplace and your brain says lift your foot so high, and then the circumstances are higher than you thought, and you get caught and you catch yourself. You know that feeling in your throat or in your mouth, or actually when you fall. I was walking Malachi to school this week. He had his big clumpy rain boots on. He was running like 4-year-olds do, and he looked back at me to show how well he was running. Not a good idea. And the boot slipped a little bit, and the cement was just a little bit more rough than he had expected, and it caught the toe of his right foot, and down he went, both hands. I said, "Nice job." And he gets up and he looks at both hands, and they're bleeding, and then he realizes, I should cry. Mrs. Hogue fixed him up. But it's chaos. For a little boy stumbling and falling, wow, happens. We as adults say, don't run. But he has to discover. Our Old Testament reading today is from the book of Isaiah, chapter 28, just 3 verses. It's actually in a very large context, but it's a very kind of amazing promise from God. Isaiah chapter 28, verses 14 through 16. Therefore, hear the word of the Lord, you scoffers, who rule this people in Jerusalem. You boast. We have entered into a covenant with death. With the realm of the dead we have made an agreement. When an overwhelming scourge sweeps by, it cannot touch us. For we have made a lie our refuge, and falsehood our hiding place. So, this is what the sovereign Lord says. See, I lay in a stone in Zion, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone for a sure foundation. The one who relies on it will never be stricken with panic. Interesting promise. Our New Testament reading is from 1 Peter chapter 4. Kind of a precursor to the entire book of 2 Peter. He's dealing with an age of the church, not just one local church, as Paul tended to write to a group of people in one situation. Peter writes to the church as a whole, all of us, for thousands of years, to apply what Peter writes. Reading chapter 4, verses 1 through 13. Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourselves with the same attitude. Because whoever suffers in the body is done with sin. As a result, they do not live the rest of their earthly lives for evil human desires, but rather for the will of God. For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans choose to do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness, orgies, carousing, and detestable idolatry. They are surprised that you do not join them in their reckless while they heap abuse on you. But they will have to give an account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this is the reason the gospel was preached even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged according to human standards in regard to the body, but live according to God in regard to the spirit. The end of all things is near. Therefore be alert and of sober mind so that you may pray. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and power forever and ever. Amen. Dear friends, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come on you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice inasmuch as you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed. Today we're looking at the topic, the concept, the idea, the hope, the plan, the skill, the impossibility of thriving on faith. There's a difference between Moore, Oklahoma and Fairdale, Illinois. The element of chaos. Moore, Oklahoma has been hit by tornadoes numerous times. In fact, the last one that came through earlier this spring was the fourth one to follow the exact same path, hitting the same houses and the same businesses, the same streets. Now, you might not like that idea. It seems incredibly unfair. But really, come on, don't be surprised when the news says there's a tornado in town and it's on Oak and 12th. There's been one there before. There's probably going to be one there again. They're destructive, and you have to get ready. But Fairdale, Illinois had a tornado, and EF4 this week. We're right down through the middle of town. 2 women died, both in their 60s, Mrs. Closa and Mrs. Schultz. They were next door neighbors to each other. They were lovely women, went to church. They listened to the news. They tried to be prepared, but they weren't ready for an EF4. They caught them totally by surprise. For one of the women, her house was utterly destroyed around her. There was nothing she could do. But Mrs. Closa did what they tell you to do. She went to her bathroom. And she got down in the bathtub, the strongest and safest place to be in a house, except the basement. In Moore, Oklahoma, they don't build houses with basements. They build them with tornado shelters. They build them away from the house with extremely strong roof sequences and ways to get in and out that can withstand a tree or bricks or anything falling on it with great power. But not in Fairdale. Mrs. Closa went to her bathroom, her daughter said, because she was afraid of spiders, and she didn't want to go down to the basement. She was more afraid of spiders than an EF for her tornado. That's the incredible tragedy of chaos. You don't know when it's coming. You don't have time to react, you don't have time to plan, you can't think about it. Chaos is any event or situation that occurs in your life that have two key factors. Number one, it is unpredictable as far as you are concerned. Now, somebody else might have been able to predict it. There might have been weather people watching the path of the storm, knowing everything about clouds and wind and hot and cold air and how it may. They may have known all that. They may have, in fact, seen the tornado on their screens, but not Mrs. Close. It was totally unpredictable what was going to happen. In fact, the day before was a beautiful day. A little cooler, but they knew a warm front was coming. Hey, people pray for warm weather, like us. And when the warm weather came, the very answer to the prayer was what created the situation that was so destructive. Because it came in an unpredictable fashion. And the second quality of chaos is it's uncontrollable, as far as you're concerned. Any event that is both unpredictable and uncontrollable is chaos. Now, it might be a brief thing. A 4-year-old stumbling. He couldn't predict. I could. But he couldn't predict what was going to happen when his hands went down on that rough cement. I knew I could warn him, but he wouldn't be able to listen because he didn't have ears to hear. But as far as he was concerned, it wasn't predictable and it wasn't controllable. And so for a moment, there was some pain and some crying. And then, after a short while, that moment was over. But Fairdale, Illinois is not going to recover in a couple of days. They're not going to recover in a couple of weeks. They might not even recover in a couple of years. See, the magnitude can be very different from one chaotic situation to another. What we're going to look at today is how to thrive on that instead of suffer it and be destroyed by it. 1 Peter writes a book that within the context of these 5 chapters are numerous warnings, pieces of counsel, good advice, understanding of God, the world, and how those work together. And so Peter very carefully lays out an understanding of the forces of the world and how they function in God's hands. It is a book that is written for people who are in distress. And the distress sometimes is periodic and sometimes it's extensive. It goes on and on without relenting. At other times, it's momentary. Matter of fact, it even refers to the idea of a momentary suffering in this. And he may be just playing on words, but he could actually be being honest. Sometimes it hits hard, it hits swift, and it's over. That is the way life works sometimes. But at other times, it's ongoing, and it's relentless, and it seems like it is never going to end. One of the things that he mentions in here is kind of odd. There really are 2 kinds of chaos. There's the kind you create that others can't get. They don't get it. And there's the kind that is inflicted on you. It really does go both ways. In 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 4, he uses an interesting verb that he actually uses a second time in the same chapter. He says, when the world, your context, your family, your friends, your co-workers, see you come to Christ and authentically inside, something is systemically different. You didn't just paint your face a little differently, dress up in nice church clothes, kind of clean up your act. The power of Christ transforms you. And it says, when the world sees that, they're surprised. And the word that's used there is xenidzo. Xenos is the usual word translated a stranger. To not belong. You go into a territory, you're on the streets, and without GPS or some electronic means of mapping where you are, you don't have a clue. If all of a sudden you were in some strange town and a tornado was coming, you wouldn't have any idea where to go and hide. Where is safe? What street do I go on? They said it's coming down 12th and Oak, but I don't know where I am. I don't even know which way is east, south, north, or west. I'm totally lost. I'm a stranger here. And it's my being a stranger in that environment that creates the chaos. Paul says, the world around you will see a change in you and they're surprised. They're a stranger to that. It's just weird when you don't keep doing the same old things you always did. You might not even be able to explain it. Your desires are not the same. Your passions, your drives, they're different. The power of God has begun to work in your life in an amazing way. But then, Peter uses the exact same word for you. Don't be surprised when the world flips on you, when it becomes incredibly difficult. When the challenges are there that seem overwhelming at times, don't be a stranger there. Don't wander the streets not having a map. Don't have no clue as to what's happening, but keep yourself very, very aware. It's interesting, two different kinds of chaos, and you're in both of them. There's 5 possible ways in which we might react to chaos. One, of course, is to be terribly afraid. The chaos, things that are uncontrollable and unpredictable, that catch you unaware, any kind of circumstance, from a minor issue to something that alters your life for the remainder of your years. And one reaction to that is to move from fear to panic, to not have any idea, to run in circles, to hyperventilate, to fall apart, to be able to have no ability even to think or to plan. The fright of the chaos is what is so overwhelming. The drive you have is to find someplace safe, anything secure. What doesn't move? What can I hold on to that won't shift and collapse on me? In tornadoes, hurricanes, and other weather phenomena, often that's the prevailing issue. Where is it safe? But that's true in any kind of chaos in our lives, in relationships, at work, in economics, in any kind of situation in which we find ourselves. Chaos, for some of us, results in incredible threat. And fear is our response. A second one is to respond with anger, leading up to rage, to try and gain some kind of change or power or force to overcome the chaos, to outwit it, to think faster, to be stronger. And it's not so much that your adrenaline is pumped so that you can run faster, it's so you can fight harder. And for some people, chaos, in any kind of situation, results in that drive to fight and win. A third one is to be hurt, to be overwhelmed, to be drained, to be empty, to be wounded, to need rest and recovery and restoration. That the chaos itself is just exhausting. It's not so much that you're afraid. As a matter of fact, you almost say death would be nice. I could sleep for a while. It's not about fear for you. It's about exhaustion, being overwhelmed. There's a fourth possibility. To be excited about chaos. To be thrilled with things changing around you that you can't control and you can't predict. In fact, that's what roller coasters are supposed to be. You get in one, they strap you down and make you think you're probably safe and secure, and then they send you on a ride where your body has no way of knowing which way it's going to turn, flip, turn upside down, go back and forth, and they become incredibly ingenious about creating new kinds of roller coasters that flip, change, create chaos for your body. Some people find that thrilling. There was a man named Oscar Levant who was a musician and composer, a friend of George Gershwin back in the 20s and 30s. He lived a life where he did the most ridiculous, idiotic things that a person could do. He just dissolved relationships, walked out of jobs, walked off the stage when he was performing, every kind of crazy thing you could imagine. And somebody finally nailed him down, trying to say, what is it that, why do you do such stupid things? He said, I am a study of a man in chaos in search of frenzy. I just love it. It's possible that some of you live that way. From one crisis to the next, plunging over cliffs and dropping out. But why? Because it's thrilling, dangerous, edgy, insane. One of the things he also wrote towards the end of his life is that there is a fine line between genius and insanity. In my life, I erased the line. There's a fifth way in which you can respond. From managing chaos, working with it to embracing it. To recognizing that in this world, God has made chaotic moments and forces. Things you cannot predict and you cannot control. But you know who can. And that becomes the difference. You see, what is chaos to you, with your limitations of knowledge and experience and thought and ideas, to God's part of the plan. He's like the super weather person who can see the whole screen, and though the tornado comes to your house, it did not catch God unawares. And he's not lost by the chaos. So how do you thrive on chaos? Peter, throughout this letter, and particularly in this section, clearly talks about it, and in very simple and plain terms. Number one, he says chaos happens. It happens to every single human being. No one is exempt. It happens. So be ready. Always be ready. Now, you don't live your life necessarily in fear. You embrace the sense that there are forces and things you cannot control. That's okay. Because it's what happens within you and through you that makes the difference when you know God. Step number two, specifically in the moment of chaos, trust God with the chaos while you're experiencing it. That seems like duh, but in the middle of chaos, that's the one thing we often forget to do. The car is spinning around and around and around. I know I've heard Jesus take the wheel, but you don't sing that right then. You're spinning around and around, waiting for the crunch of the cracker to go over the edge, and afterwards you say, I don't know how I got a quick out, but I did. But you did. There are times of chaos, even while it's happening, to say, I'm going to identify exactly what this is and why I'm so threatened by it. In this moment, God, even while you're falling with your hands out in front of you to the ground, this moment is yours, God. I'm yours in this moment. I don't understand it, and I can't control it. But I want to commit this to you. Step three, one of the things that Peter says to people who are in utter chaos, and this was life-threatening chaos, he says, just keep doing the good things you've been doing. You can't control everything, but you can control something. God has given you gifts, and he's given you relationships, and he's put you in a body and in a place in the world, and you can do that. The rest of things around you are out of control, but all of you is not out of control. Everything doesn't have to submit to the chaos and get sucked into the tornado. Stay with what you can do. Use your gifts. Keep it the task. And the result of that is not that the world looks at you and says, good job, boy, you are really something. The world looks at you and says, the God you believe in is an amazing God. How did you stay on your feet then? Because of God. Because I'm changed. Because I'm transformed. The circumstances I can't control. But myself, I belong to God. And so I can. Step 4, stand firmly on that cornerstone that Isaiah spoke about. It's amazing that in the context of what he was writing about in Isaiah 28 was a world that said, we're in control now. We're the ones that can run everything. We made a pact with death. And when it comes around, it's not touching us. And God says, you think so? I'm actually the one that holds death in my hand. And I'm going to set a cornerstone that the one who stands on the cornerstone will never panic. It leads into our theme of what Peter talks about in 2 Peter chapter 1. The feeling, the fright, the fear, the anger, the rage, the emptiness that says, I can't deal with this. I can't overcome it. I'm not big enough. And God says, you're right. Where to you this is a problem, to me it's an opportunity. And so in that moment, offer to God, this sounds strange, your chaos is a gift. So that in his might and power you come out of Easter Sunday, you don't know the whole story, but he knows the whole story. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, every one of us in this room has experienced something out of our control. And we are going to again. It might be something that happens so suddenly and quickly we cannot even think. It might be a small matter, but it also could shape our lives forever. We don't know. But we want to know you in such a way that the days and moments of our lives truly are in your hands, and we know it. It seems to us that if you were really nice, you'd just stop all chaos. No one would ever be distressed or hurt. Bad things would never happen. But you are the kind of God that not only permits that, but you have a plan through it. It's not the stuff and the times that we put in your hands right now. It's us. We're here. In Jesus' name we pray. time, but that was Easter Sunday, and we decided to have our communion with whiskey, really as part of Passover meal, when Jesus invited all of his disciples to sit at the table. He washed their feet. He served them, including Judas, and including Peter, and including those who were faithful and those who struggled with faith. The communion table here is an open table. One of the songs we're going to sing during communion is about grace, and our closing song today is about mercy. They're really twin sisters, but fraternal. They're not identical. Mercy is to not receive what you deserve. It might actually be the chaos. You could conclude, I deserve this. I know it's insane, but grace is to receive what you didn't deserve, a gift. You can't pay for it. You can't earn it. It is given to you. You accept it. The communion table is really both of those. On Good Friday, Christ's death paid our price. He stepped into where we should have been. It should have been us. Individually, that's the penalty for sin. But we don't receive what we deserve. Murderers are not stoned to death. People who wear blended fabrics aren't cast out of the community. But any little sin has consequences. Some consequences are huge. Some consequences are small. But the consequence for sin is suspended because of Good Friday. But we also receive grace, life. It's the empty tomb that fits with the cross. And it is in both of them coming into our lives and we discover the true heart of God. And He is full of grace and He is full of mercy for you. He knows what you've done. He was there when you did it. And He suspends the penalty and put it on Jesus. But He doesn't just leave you in limbo. So great. I'm not going to get what I deserve. That leaves you no gift. No. Grace is the twin sister. He gives you what you don't deserve. The mercy is really yours, whether you like it or not. But the grace is yours only if you accept it. Our song for communion is Amazing Grace. Pray the Lord's Prayer together and open the table. You're free to come. You're also free not to. God won't be offended by that. It's just this moment is a chance to find grace and mercy. these. It's not just religious stuff, it's what actually applies in every single day of our lives. We find countless situations in which we are in need of mercy. It can be some simple as, we forgot to get gas at the last station. We really hope we get there on fumes. For bad planning, we know what we deserve, but we don't get that. Or something big happens, and we know we should pay the penalty for it, but we don't. It's suspended. You also give grace that applies to every moment of every day. Did a funeral for a man who was 31,315 days old, and I didn't see the last one coming. I didn't see the last one coming. So we have a day. It's a gift. You're the holder of our days. You know the number of them. We don't, but we know you. So we put our hand in yours, and we're going to hold on tight. Help us stand on the cornerstone that takes the panic away. Would you join me in the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Okay, receive grace.
Okay. So first, now that we're 15 seconds in, softball is starting soon. So if you either normally play softball or you're new to softball and interested in playing, talk to the man on drums because he's looking for a few more people. So it'll be a fun time to play softball. Also, if you are a teen or you have a teen or you know a teen, our last turning point of the year, which is the last one in April, the 28th, we are looking at going to Sky Zone. So we're figuring things out, but we're looking at that, so keep that in the back of your mind. And then next Sunday, the 19th, we are having a potluck dinner meeting downstairs. So please put that on your calendar.
Potluck and all church dialogue, very, very important, very important. Dialogue is not to make decisions. Dialogue is to bring the topic all the way up on the table and get as much information as we can. Melanie, did you want to say something? I don't know if you want to.
No, not really.
There's a letter in your bulletin. So if you didn't pick up a bulletin,
You can take a look.
Bulletins are important now,
bulletins
guys.
are very important.
I keep telling you.
If they want to talk to me afterwards, I'm going to have to, but I really don't think it's part of church.
Yeah, I don't think that's the same one. Did you sing afterwards? Yes. All right, our promise today comes from Isaiah 42, chapter 16. I will lead the blind by ways they have not known, although along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. I will turn the darkness into light before them, and make the rough paths smooth. These are the things I will do. I will not forsake you.
It's a great chaos.
I will kneel in the dust at the foot of the cross, where mercy waited for me. For the wrath I deserve, it is gone, it is past. Your
join me in reading tonight's benediction from Psalm 105. He brought out his people with rejoicing, his chosen ones with shouts of joy. He gave them the lands of the nations, and they fell heir to what others had toiled for, that they might keep his precepts and observe his laws. Praise the Lord. Amen.
I also forgot to welcome Aaron to the worship team on Inmate Now.
I do all that. You're old news now. You're one of
We can see everything from out here. Look.